friends! Have you ever had the feeling that there is a gap between who you currently are and who you wish you could be? Like there is an ideal version of you that is more clear, more confident, more alive, and just living in a way that you wish you could. But then you look at your actual life and it really doesn't look anything like that. So you start wondering, is this just who I am? That feeling isn't the truth about you. It's just what you were conditioned to believe. It's something you learned, and what you learn, you can unlearn. And that's what this video is about. But before we get to this ideal version of you, we need to first understand, who do you think you are? Not on a philosophical level, but on a practical, day-to-day level. What do you believe about yourself? What do you think you're capable of? We all carry a story about ourselves, and that story shapes everything in our life. What you try, what you avoid, and what you think is possible for you. But where did it come from? And is it actually true? You weren't born with a personality. You weren't born and destined to be creative or sporty, confident or shy. When you were a baby, you were pretty much a blank slate. Literally, because from your birth to an age of about 7 years old, the brain operates mainly in a theta brainwave state. This is the state that's also associated with meditation, deep hypnosis, or that state that you're in right after you wake up or right before you fall asleep. But the thing with the state is that in this state, you have pretty much zero filter. So you're not analyzing or questioning anything that comes in. You're just absorbing it like a sponge. And the thing is, it's actually a brilliant design because your brain, when you're a child, needs to learn things really fast. It needs to download language, it needs to download social cues, it needs to learn a lot of things in a short amount of time. So the best way to do this is to just have it go directly into your brain. So at this stage, your brain is super open and it takes everything in. And for learning, it's great. But the problem with that is it literally takes everything in. It takes in praise, but it also takes in criticism. It takes in encouragement, but it also takes in when people doubt you. And in this process, you learn also about who you are. So you directly get this information and it gets imprinted as positive, but also as negative or limiting beliefs about yourself. So when somebody tells you something, then you don't just see it as, oh, that's somebody's opinion, but you just think, oh, so that's who I am. And then life keeps adding to it. The roles you have to play in your family, your environment. Things get repeated so many times that at some point, they don't just feel like messages anymore. They just become your truth. And once you arrive at those conclusions, your whole system organizes around them. Your behavior, your choices, what you reach for, and what you don't even bother trying. All of it quietly running on a narrative that was created before you were even old enough to question whether it was actually true. But if it's just a story, why does it feel so hard to change? It's because your brain is protecting what's familiar. Your nervous system doesn't make the distinction between, oh, this is familiar or this is good. Consistency feels safer than growth. And the mind would rather be right than feel good or better. Familiar equals safe, even if that familiarity is actually keeping you stuck. In psychology, we call this self-verification, meaning that the brain is looking for proof for already existing beliefs about yourself. It wants to confirm your existing self-image. But that means that if your self-image is bad, it is looking for proof to confirm that. There's actual psychological research that has shown that people with low self-esteem will prefer negative feedback about themselves over positive. So your perception constantly filters for confirming evidence. Meaning, let's say you try something 11 times and actually you get it right 10 times, but your brain will get hung up on that one time where you failed and seeing that as proof and the other 10 times as luck if you generally believe that you're bad at that thing. Or let's say somebody gives you a compliment that is not in line with what you believe about yourself, then you're gonna think, oh, they were just being kind and it's not even really gonna register. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have low confidence, it's just a mechanism in your brain. But mechanisms can be understood and worked with. To illustrate this, let me share a personal story with you. So when I was in second grade, when I was 6 years old, I transferred to a different school. And my new school had yearly sports competitions in the summer. And you could win 3 types of certificates. There was the honors certificate, there was the winner's certificate, and there was the participant certificate. And during that competition, we were doing different things like throwing, long jumps, and sprinting. And the other kids had pretty much 2 years to prepare for those competitions and lots of practice. I had never done it before. So obviously I was not a natural talent. And when I first participated in the competition, I got a participant certificate, which looking back shouldn't have been a big deal because it was kind of obvious. How could I do it well if I never learned and never practiced how to do it? However, my 7-year-old brain didn't think, oh, I just haven't learned this yet. I thought, oh, it must mean that I'm just bad at sports. So it was one single experience that led to one misunderstanding that I then just started carrying with me for several years without ever questioning it. Always only getting participant certificates because I also didn't even try anymore because I just thought I was bad at it and there was nothing I could do. However, that all changed when a few years later, when I was 11 and in like 6th grade, I think, my school hosted a charity donation run and our parents could donate money. My parents, also thinking that I'm bad at sports, said, oh, yeah, we'll just donate 10 euros per round because she's probably not going to run a lot of rounds. So we'll make sure that we at least donate a decent amount. But the thing was, I didn't think about my story that day. I just thought about the good things that the money could do. And so I started running and I just kept going. And I ended up running 11 kilometers without stopping. As you can imagine, everybody was really surprised, including me. And in that moment, something shifted. I thought, maybe I'm not as bad at sports as I thought. And fast forward another 10 years later, my job was teaching yoga, and I was actually traveling the world doing that. But if you had asked my younger self, she would have never thought that that was a possibility. But this run didn't actually change who I was. It just revealed what I was capable of all along underneath my story. So the reason I'm sharing this with you is that it might be the same for you. The story you're living right now is not the final word on you. Maybe it's just a misunderstanding, something that you picked up when you were a lot younger and something you can unlearn so you can actually become the person that you wish you could be. So there's 3 things that I want you to take away from this video. Number 1, your identity is not just who you're destined to be. It was shaped by your experiences that you had no control over at an age where you were just too young to evaluate them. Number 2, your brain protects that identity and filters out contradicting evidence. Limitations can feel real without being real because your brain has a tendency to reject anything that doesn't align with its current beliefs. And most importantly, number 3, because it was shaped, it can be reshaped by new experiences. The most powerful way to change an old story is to experience something that contradicts it. You don't have to believe it first, because action comes first and belief follows. Start consciously looking for evidence of what you want to believe, and trust me, you will find it. That's how you start writing a new story. And it actually goes even deeper than that, because your identity doesn't just shape how you see yourself, but how you perceive the world around you. The opportunities you notice, the possibilities that feel realistic, and the life you can imagine for yourself. There is another fascinating brain mechanism behind it, and once you understand it, you can use it to your advantage. But we'll go deeper into that in the next video. For now, if there is anything about yourself that you don't like, but always just assumed is who you are, I want you to reflect on this. Is that actually true? Or is it just an old belief that you're ready to let go of? Because that's how we start to shift, by questioning the truth of what we believe about ourselves. If something in this video resonated with you and you feel like you want to do this work more intentionally, I actually also work with people one-on-one. I'm going to put a link in the description where you can book a free 30-minute clarity call with me to figure out if working together is right for you. That's it from me today. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!